Thank you very much, Simon. I hand over now to Professor Peng Khaw, who directs the Moorfields University College Institute of Ophthalmology, NIHR Biomedical Research Centre.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I'm very pleased to be here today, and I've been given the brief of talking about international research collaborations. I know you've heard about the infrastructure that we have in the UK, and my purpose today will be to talk about some of the international collaborations that we have, but also at the beginning just to show a little bit about the new infrastructure we have in Britain for some of these developments which have brought collaborations to the UK. On the left there's the Queen's Award for Medical Research with the UCL Institute and Moorfields got. We went to Buckingham Palace, but unfortunately I didn't see James Bond or a parachute. So. I am just showing this slide of visual impairment because diseases, apart from the major diseases that traditionally, such as cardiovascular disease and cancer, have occupied a lot of thinking time all around the world because of the burdens. But other diseases, such as diseases of vision, hearing, are now going to pose enormous healthcare problems across the world. And there you see, I'll just say that it's the most precious thing, of course, because that's what you're using to see this. But on an analog scale, visual loss is equivalent to the things that we as human beings fear the most: advanced cancer, disabling stroke, intractable pain. And in aging populations around the world, this is important. And not only that, people want treatments. Every week in the clinic, people want tomorrow's treatment now. So how can we work together internationally to make this happen? Just in case you're tempted to fall asleep, every single one of you in this room who have normal lifespans will be affected by one of these conditions here. Every single one of you. So it's very important that we come to terms to disease from macular degeneration to glaucoma, which is the world's commonest neuropathy, to diabetes, inflammation, and cataract, of course. And so, you know, what do we need to work together internationally to make this work? I'll just say a word about UK infrastructure, because actually what I'm saying here about ophthalmology applies across the board to many of the other centres that you've seen, the biomedical centres you've heard Dame Sally speak about. And there's been a bit of a revolution. I was very struck by Helen Glover, who won the Olympic medal for sculls yesterday, and she'd never rowed, and yet, given the right opportunity, she was able to win the Olympic gold medal. And I think with the NIHR, it's something which has been radically important for us, because it's put together the great power of the NHS and universities in the UK to give us a platform in which to really move things forward. There you see one of my young patients, and there you see she's had her sight restored because we managed to bridge that translational bridge that's been missing by so much of medical research. You know, she sees again, she can see her mother again. And this is the great challenge that faces people around the world. How can we translate science into things that really, really matter to people? And that's the delivery pathway we've been talking about. Well, the way that the NIHR has helped us do that, not just in ophthalmology, but across the board, is by providing infrastructure. There you see some of the pictures of various things and everything. I'll just point out on the top left there, that's a national resource. That's called the EPSRC Centre for development of new macromolecular therapies. In a nutshell, what it does is it takes drug production processes and reduces their production costs. So something that might cost 100 million, you can reduce its production costs with innovative methods down to around maybe 30 million. Now this is life-changing because of the new models of pharmaceutical development. If you can reduce your production costs down, it means you can create a new generation of treatments that don't have to be blockbusters. That's the Moorfields drug production facility, which is the most highly productive commercial pharmacy, although it's an NHS facility. And it's linking all of these things, including the new NIHR Research Centre, which is the largest in the world, that allows us to build a pipeline that allows us to work together with many of the partners in the world that we're doing to bring some of these new treatments to fruition. So the other thing that's the key in this translation is, of course, the population. I noticed in the Olympic World Cup there was a great thrill that there were 204 Olympic committees in countries here. Well, I heard on the radio today somebody commenting about things that's fantastic. That's about 100 less than nationalities that are present in North London. And why that's important is that Britain, because of the NHS, has a population that is the population of the world, particularly in London. And if we can harness this population, it's an incredible platform working together to create new treatments. There's information technology. This is OpenEye system, which basically works on the net. It's open source. It can be accessed by the patient. We can look at different aspects of patient populations. And also, because of this big population, we see about 500,000 patient visits a year, which is about twice as many as the largest hospital in the United States. So again, using this population and working with others in the world, this has huge advantages, like you've heard from Simon earlier today, about being able to find out how drugs are really working and use this as a platform. I'll just use about 3 or so examples of international collaborations to show how we, working together with different partners around the world, are helping to move certain really key and exciting areas forward because of this infrastructure. So take stem cells. This is taken from a paper in the journal Nature. It's the world's first example of taking a stem cell, putting it in the retina, and showing that you can actually restore eyesight in a mouse. Now, this was highlighted as one of the 10 top papers in the last decade of MRC funding. But the real secret is one thing having a paper in Nature, but the thing is, how do you transform this into something that really matters to human beings, to patients who really care about this? Well, this is one example of international collaboration. This is a joint collaboration between the MRC and the NIHR BRC, looking at, and by the California Institute of Regenerative Medicine there on the left, you see forming platforms to create stem cell therapies for patients with macular degeneration. So again, it's one example of an international collaboration that's going to help us move much faster in delivering stem cells. Because of this infrastructure that is now present in Britain, this is obviously a very attractive development platform. And this led to other companies, such as Advanced Cell Technologies, coming to us and talking to us, the chief executive and chairman, to work with us to deliver the first stem cell treatments. Does this matter? Well, it does, because we have open days in the NHS where all the patients come and the board sits. And a gentleman got up at our last meeting and said, I have dry macular degeneration. Is there any hope for me? This is the commonest blinding disease in Britain. And normally I would say, well, maybe 5 to 10 years. This time I said something different. I said, we will start the first trial in 18 months. Now, it's interesting because the whole group of patients got up and they applauded. And what that shows is, and I asked my fellow board member, I said, why did they do that? I said, because you gave them hope. Well, actually, I was wrong. It wasn't 18 months. We started our first trial in 6 months. And this is the acceleration that's now been possible with the infrastructure that's present in the UK. And it's this work that we want to share with colleagues and work with people around the world to produce very fast translation of treatments. New drugs and drug delivery are the key question, and one of the key questions in terms of eye delivery, eye drugs, because as you know, macular degeneration is treated by injections into the eyeball every month. Now, I'm sure most of you would quite like the idea of having a needle stuck into your eye every month. But this is a big problem for patients. And so we're working in a way to find better ways to deliver drugs. And Dame Sally visited Singapore as part of her work with A-Star and others, and we were talking about that. And shortly after that, we got inquiries from Singapore. Roche, as you know, have invested about $500 million in Singapore to create production facilities, R&D. But actually, they've come back to us, working with the Singapore National Eye Centre, to actually use some of the technologies that only we have here and some of the fast-track systems, so that together, and I use this word together, this is not just bringing it back alone, but actually working with Singapore National Eye Centre to develop some of the new platforms for drug delivery and drug treatments for retinal diseases. So again, the infrastructure that we have here is bringing people naturally back to Britain to develop some of the new generations of treatments, and we're very excited about that. I'll give you one nearly final example, which is inflammation in the eye. And again, I'm sorry about all these pictures, but this is ophthalmology and we're very visual. This is a collaboration between the National Institutes of Health, on the left you see there in Bethesda, and between the NIHR BRC here. And our NIHR BRC extends not just into London, but actually to Bristol now, where there's a huge collection of patients with inflammatory eye disease. And the reason the NIH has come to us and is working with us is because they want access to this very unique population, but in turn will be using their very advanced facilities for screening some of these patients, but also some of our facilities. So working together with the NIH. This is a very unique consortium, and there's two people, Rob Newsom-Blatt and John Prakash from the NIH, and there's Andrew Dick and myself signing the agreement. This is a unique agreement because it means that we're working together to develop platforms for new treatments for inflammatory eye disease, which are unduly damaging to the eye and have a very high morbidity. So new treatments are really needed. And again, it's because of the joint infrastructure that we have that the NIHR have worked with us and are very keen to work together so that together we can really benefit from the facilities on both sides of the ocean. In terms of clinical trials, again, we've worked with many centers around the world. This is an anti-scarring treatment. We create a little hole in the eye if the pressure is too high in the eyeball. This is the disease glaucoma. And we've discovered that certain treatments using very inexpensive anti-cancer drugs are very useful for this disease, which is a major blinding disease, particularly in Asia and also in Africa. And we've done trials in Africa and together with the Singapore Center to show that these very inexpensive drugs, it doesn't always have to be very expensive drugs. This single application of drugs here costs 10 pence, 20 US cents. And it's shown to make a difference for at least 5 years in the outcome, improving the outcome of this form of surgery. So again, working together with our colleagues around the world, we've been able to show that this makes a difference. So in conclusion, really, I suppose the key point I wanted to make, there's been a hugely and very significant increase in the infrastructure present in the UK. And we are open for business, we are open for collaboration, and hopefully this will lead to very good prospects for advances and very fast rapid tracking of new treatments that all our patients are asking for. Thank you.
Sit down over there.